Angela Thomas.
How are you, Angela?
I'm doing fine Tuesday. How about yourself?
I can't complain. No complaints this week. Wonderful.
Well, that's great.
Can you remind our listeners where they can check out our website and more information?
Certainly. Well, if you are listening to the show, you may also wish to visit our website at portaltalkradio.com for more information about today's guest, Joey and Jill Korn. They are authors of Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment. You may also wish to join us in the live virtual auditorium located under the social issues on paltalk.com, where listeners like yourself discuss today's topics and issues. We can be heard on AOL Radio, MSN Radio, TRICOM, BBS Radio, just to name a few.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lots of things in the news, paranormal news. I've noticed. I went on to Google, as what you suggested I do, and I didn't know that you can actually put in for a Google alert when a certain subject pops up, and they notify you.
Oh, absolutely. Google is a wonderful tool. Any topic, any information you need, instead of you searching through, pages upon pages of search results, just go to a Google alert, and it will directly email you.
Well, you know what? I mean, the Internet is basically working for you now. I mean, you don't really have to go and do anything if you actually know all the resources that it has, and it's like a robotic, arm for you. I mean, I thought, oh, right, great. I don't have to look for the new news. They notify me when it's on.
That's right. I love it.
I love it, too, on it. That was great. And so I read the first article that actually had to do, we spoke about last week about this new show with there's kids that are actually going out and doing investigations. It's like kind of a reality show. And they had a girl that was on there. And, the only thing I flagged about that, Angela, is that she said that she has always wanted to be an actor. And yet it did say that there was part of the show that she was doing acting in. And I thought, okay, well, that kind of blows that, because here it is that we're looking at a reality show that's based upon reality and not acting. And, when I read that, I thought, okay, here we go. We got acting involved with the show. Of course, it's got to be some of it. But this girl didn't have, they interviewed her. She said she wasn't afraid of anything. They took her into a location that was very haunted. There was some activity around her, which she was able to detect with some tools that they'd given her. And she did pick up some EVPs. And then afterwards in the interview, lower half of the interview, she would say that she was freaking out when she started hearing the EVPs. And so I thought, okay, here we go. I want to know the details of this little girl after she finishes this and how many nightmares she has from it.
Well, I'm having a difficult time with the fact that, 10-year-olds are out there, all the way to 16-year-olds are out there at investigations, and I think that's wonderful if you are, no longer a minor and you have the ability to differentiate between what is real and what is not, and to handle paranormal phenomenon. But, I think 10 years old is a bit young, and we shall see where Ghost Kids TV goes with this.
Yeah, I agree on this, and they're asking if this is through Parastate. No, it's not through Parastate. It's a new kids show. Do you remember the name of the show, Angela?
Yes, it is Ghost Kids TV. That is the name of the show.
Okay.
So, we shall see how it goes. But again, I just find it a tad bit spooky that children are now getting into paranormal investigations for the entertainment value. So, well, speaking of that, Tuesday, you had shared a little earlier today that you have jumped on the bandwagon with eBay and actually placed a bid on a haunted bracelet.
I did. I had a friend of mine sent me the link earlier, and so, I was drawn when I seen this bracelet and the description of it. It's more like a child-sized bracelet, and it describes the haunted bracelet of Sully. It's S-U-L-I, and it describes on that these people who have come across this bracelet, it was supposedly a descendant of a woman called Sully, and the family claimed to be experienced massive paranormal activity around it. They felt that the bracelet belonged to their great-grandmother, which that's sad in itself. The fact is they're bidding on a bracelet that's a family heirloom,
right.
But they said that there's a ghost attached to it. Now, my intentions are on this that, they've had a couple things going on with it. They gave it to a priest to have it blessed. The priest came back the next day to return it, saying that, It's giving me the EBGBs. And, and so then they had a witch give them a box that put a protection spell around the bracelet. And supposedly with the bracelet that stays in the box, there's no activity. Once the bracelet comes out of the box, there's supposed to be tons of activity around with it. Now, my intentions are two things. Well, three things, actually. One of it is that I noticed that on eBay there were several other items that they had on there that was supposed to be haunted, and that these people are bidding for these objects expecting to have some type of ghost come popping out of it the minute they open the package. Not always the case is going to happen. If, in fact, that this thing is haunted, or they buy an object that's haunting, sometimes the ghost doesn't go with the item that they ship. It stays right where it's at. Or the fact is that, okay, so they get the object, and here comes a bunch of trouble with it. But in this case, I do want to see for myself. The fact is that I do have a lot of activity on this. Is this committing Harry-Carry to myself? No, because I feel the fact is that if indeed if this bracelet has this great-grandmother's energy and a ghost that's attached to it, how sad for her to be able to attach to something and not move on. And how sad is it that anybody doesn't take the time or attempt to, and try to send this little old lady on and let her know that this is no longer hers, that she doesn't need to be attached to it.
Well, Tuesday, here's the thing. How does one truly know that it is the great-grandmother or the grandmotherly figure attached to the bracelet? Even though it was hers, how do we truly know that it is not another spirit posing as that grandmother? I believe personally that, one invites trouble. In fact, you just said to me that, they had a priest who then returned the bracelet, and then they had a witch put some sort of protection spell on it. But if they were that convinced of a protection spell from a witch, why not keep grandmother's bracelet?
Right. Well,
you see what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean on that. And then again on it though, Angela. I'm just reading what they have said about it. They also said that that there has been different visitations or people witnessing the visitations from this what described to be this great grandmother. And then they have different accounts. But the fact of it is, I seriously don't know whether it was the bracelet or not. They're assuming that it is. They're assuming that it's based upon this bracelet. And, how funny would it be that the fact is to get the bracelet, there's nothing on it. I do have that gift to know if there is something really going to be attached to this item. I can't, I felt something around the bracelet, but we'll see. I'm not going to bring it in my house right away. I'll do some cleansing on it, and I'll, and hold it and play with it and yada, yada, yada outside of my home and see what we can get up of it. Maybe the thing is that, if this ghost wants to come out and play, then come out and play. I do have enough ghosts over here who are very protective of my surrounding area. They like their space. And it's been known, which I feel, and I know that they do that, the fact is they don't really let anything in that's not going to be very nice. The fact is they'll shoo it away. They don't want nothing in this house that's going to invade their time and privacy with me. So, and the fact is, too, hopefully, this is the thing. If this ghost needs help, then it needs help. Let's help it.
Well, I still say you're a very brave woman to invite something like that into your home. And, of course, I'm sure that as soon as you touch it, with the use of psychometry, you'll be able to differentiate whether or not it truly is the grandmotherly figure or if it is something totally different. And, a lot of people use psychometry, even, those that are not psychics or anything of that nature. They go to, let's say, antique shops or something of this nature, and they find jewelry or furniture or something, and quite often they find a spirit attached to it.
Well, that's true. They do attach to things. And often it is said that ghosts do not haunt people. They haunt items or places. So we'll see on this, Again, it's not a given thing to me. It's something that I had to bid on. I'm at the highest bidding right now, and so don't anybody go bid on it.
Now that you've announced it in, over 107 countries, don't bid on my item.
Oh, right.
We're going to drive that bracelet price up now.
That's true. I have 7 hours left on it, and it was a very reasonable price. And this is the thing also, when I looked at it, is that here it is, this bracelet's very old. It has a lot of symbols on it. It looks like it's to be an antique as it is, and I couldn't believe the very low price that they had on it in the first place. If it's that old, then, you think that it would be in that antique state. So it's, wasn't very much money.
Well, they want to get rid of it.
Well, I guess they do, on it. But see, what I found interesting, though, Angela, is that they had that was not the only item on there. They had quite a bit of other items that were on there, and I thought, well, how irresponsible is people instead of trying to solve the solution or help the solution on this, that they're selling it to people who might have no experience in this stuff at all, but it's just interesting. And who knows what they're going to get in the mail, really?
Well, we'll just have to send today's guest over to the seller of that bracelet because, Joey and Jill Korn are experts on dowsing. And I visited their website, which is dowsers.com. And I have to tell you, they are able to actually take, detrimental energy in one's environment and change it to beneficial energy. So I'm sure they probably get quite a bit of calls to come out to people's homes, offices, and things of that nature.
Well, I believe that when I was reading on their site, Joey has written on there that along with the dowsing, that it's very important that there is prayer and meditation that goes, hand in hand with this. And that's how everything has brought harmony to his life. I admire that the fact is that they've surrounded themselves with harmony in prayers, meditation, all sorts of forms of different dowsing. And those who bring positive messages to them, they seem to surround themselves with this, and it seems to be working for them. I know that through emails that I have sent back and forth to me and Joey, that his emails, you can just feel the positive energy that comes off of it. And very nice people. They're very, Joey likes to interact with people. He really likes to share his messages and his teachings, and is very positive about that. And I like that about them. I really do. I think that brings, it doesn't hurt to have somebody in the world that's, that keeps that positive energy, that that if you're going to be around them, you feel better.
Mm-hmm. And, I know that they, for lack of a better word, manipulate energy and also enhance their own spirituality. In fact, they have connected it to the Kabbalah, and I like that very much. Although I don't practice the faith, I certainly am fascinated with the mysteries that the Kabbalah contains. So now they also, do they not use pendulums?
Well, I think they do have that listed throughout their site on different items that their tools that they use. So we'll have to ask that with Joey. I've got loads of questions that our listeners have known that they're going to be on the show that have sent to me. So I plan on including their questions. And if any of you all in the virtual auditorium, or if, did we give the 800 number?
No, we did not give the 800 number.
Let's give that out because in case somebody wants to call in.
Well, I'll let you give that out today, Tuesday.
All right, let's look it up here. It's 1-877-786-0562. And again, one more time, this is the call. This is toll free. It's 1-877-786-0562. There we go. Thank you for having that at the top of the page on there, station manager. We appreciate that, because otherwise I'd have to go looking through the phone book on it. Too much time on that one on it. So let's see, what else do we got? Because we're having the guest on actually in a few minutes. We're going to bring him on for an hour and a half today instead of our usual hour, because they've got so much to share on it. And we booked a couple new guests.
Yes.
We've booked a lot of guests. I have to say thank you so much for all those out there who are sending in the opportunity for us to interview you. It's been great that we're getting all these people in that are responding to the show. I really appreciate it. We thank you so much. Looking forward to having you. We're having Derek Acorah. We're having Derek Acorah on June 29th.
Well, tell the listeners who are not aware of Derek.
He's a UK guy, which I thought was great. The fact is that he's a ghost hunter psychic out in the UK, very famous for what he does. He's on that show, Ghost Hunters. There's a couple other shows he's done, quite a bit actually, on it. Very popular in the UK, and really glad to have him come onto the show on it. We did also hear back from Anthony Michael Hall, who does that show, The Dead Zone, based on psychometry, and you've heard me speak about it last week. And so he did make a commitment in July. He's got a couple other movies coming out, and so we're going to interview him after those movies are out, which is great. Can hardly wait for that. On it, we have Robert Brown coming up too in May, which I'm excited about that. And of course, we did speak about Echo Bodine.
Echo Bodine, and we've got Pamela Heath coming back to the show.
Oh.
And we've got so many people coming on.
We do. And, you know, when we had Dan Gordon on...
for Haunted Baseball.
That's right, on March the 2nd, those of you who are listening, towards the end of that show, we had a very strange thing happen.
I know.
Did you remember that?
Yes.
It was so bizarre. We were, as we were interviewing him, all of a sudden we heard this voice come through the telephone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we were, process of elimination to see exactly what it was. Was it the fact that somebody was either at one of our houses, which that was not the case. None of us had any little kid that what it sounded like was a younger voice. There, Dan was alone. I have no other family members that were around the phone. You weren't either.
Nor had I.
Yes, and so after listening to it, it's and playing the EVP back and forth. Well, actually, it's called an AVP, is what I was told. There was no other programs where you get someone says leave message on one of your other programs. It wasn't anything that. It did say leave me, and over and over again. Now, as I was listening to the show, there actually was a couple other spots in where we didn't catch it and hear something, but there was something else that was on there. So this ghost had actually been on a couple times during that specific show, but it was very bizarre how all of a sudden we all heard it, a voice of this ghost coming through the telephone.
Yes, I had a lot of emails and instant messages asking who was that, what did they say, et cetera, et cetera. So it has to be some spirit either on your side or my side.
Well, it was, or Dan's. I mean, we had never had that happen before, except for Dan was, the guest, and so, maybe it came from him.
I know.
So it was just very, very bizarre. It was just the way that the voice was just, I got to say, a little bit creepy there, Angela.
Well, I think it shocks everyone when they hear an unexpected voice, an unexpected spirit voice at that. I've had that actually happen in person in a restaurant, and I was with an individual who was also a world-renowned psychic, and we both kind of looked at each other because, neither one of us wanted to say, wait a minute, did you just hear them call your name, this woman's voice call your name? So I asked her, did you hear something? And she said, yes, did you? And so we both shared at the same time what we had heard. But it was very loud, very audible, and sounded like it was only 6 inches, 12 inches away.
Well, there was no mistake on this one, because not only did I hear it, you hear it, and our guest Dan Gordon heard it, that all of our listeners heard it too.
Well, the world heard it too.
They did.
They certainly did.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I think, I invite the ghosts anytime to do, if they want to join us as a guest, come on down.
Right. Well, so you're going to do a live remote from your home one of these days. Is that correct?
I am. We're going. Hopefully, we can get that set up. And as it looks right now, that we were booked with guests all the way through July. So
well, beyond
that
fit
now, somebody in. We've got St. Patrick's Day coming up in a couple days. So happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you Irish people out there. And be safe and drive safe.
Yes,
and remember
absolutely.
not to drink and drive. Always the rule. Find yourself a designated driver if you're going to go out and party.
Well, if any of the listeners, those within the United States, that is, that has any particular place that you find is, active with spirits and you would like to see Tuesday or myself or both of us do a remote, please email us at info@portaltalkradio.com.
Absolutely on that one, on it. And again, that I know that we've received some of the listeners' emails regarding their stories. I appreciate that. They're asking for help, and if we can't help you, then we will for sure send you to a place that you can get help, or somebody that you can also speak with if you really need some help with something that's going on and you don't understand what it is.
Good.
Absolutely on that. And so, well, let's see on it. Also too, Angela, I really want to thank the listeners. They've been really responsive to, listening to the show, participating in the show, and big shout out to those in the UK. We appreciate your listening audience out there, and, just a big thanks for that.
Absolutely.
On it. So
Tuesday, what do you hear about this museum in New Orleans? You know that our show is going to be carried in New Orleans very soon off of a particular station, WPRN. And I understand that New Orleans has a haunted museum, and I understand that you also have a video which will be presented in the museum itself.
Absolutely. You know, I'm waiting to hear back from them when they're going to air that. And, you know, they've got so much response back from this museum. I would love to go out to New Orleans. This is where our station manager lives with his family, and bug them for a good couple days and drive them crazy. But, you know, there is so much history, you know, with New Orleans. And I think that I'm being buzzed saying that we've got about another minute before we go on to our break and bring on our guests.
All right. Well, there's a lot of history in New Orleans, and the Haunted Museum has opened as of January of this year. So I highly recommend that everyone visit New Orleans and definitely see what is going on with the paranormal there.
Absolutely. Oh, boy, to me, it's got to be one of the most haunted cities there is.
Oh, you know it is, too.
You know, on it. So, but we'll see on that one. And on that note, we are just about ready to go to break, and when we come back, we will bring on our guests, Joey and Jill Korn. Might be Joey just at first, and see. I know that Jill might have some family obligations, so we'll see if we get both of them on there. And you guys stay tuned. We'll be back in a few minutes, and that's it.
Now here's your hosts of Portal Paranormal Talk Radio, Tuesday Miles and Angela Thomas.
And we are back, and this is Portal Paranormal Talk Radio, and I'm your host, Tuesday Miles.
And I'm Angela Thomas.
And we have our guests joining us today, don't we, Angela?
Oh, yes, we have Joey Korn. Welcome to the show, Joey.
Glad to be here.
Yes, absolutely welcome. We are excited for you to be here. Finally,
I'm looking forward to it.
We have tons of questions for you. And Angela, could you give his website out for us, please?
Yes, Joey and Jill Korn's website is www.dowsers.com. That's DOWSERS.com.
And you can find more information also about their site on our Portal website, and you know what that is on it, portaltalkradio.com. And my L rods in front of me. And, you know, I really, you know, I think I know how to use them, but I'm not sure really what the purposes are behind this. Can you explain to us really what the purpose is, or what you feel the purpose is on using these tools?
Well, God, the purpose, let's say the uses of them are pretty much unlimited. But I define dowsing as a sacred process using sacred tools to tune in to the subtle energies that are everywhere around us and within us, or to tune into what I call God's light. You know, we're filled and surrounded by subtle energies, and there's a very special thing about subtle energies. They can't be detected by any scientific equipment that I've ever been exposed to, any meters or any gauges or anything like that, but we can find these energies very easily with a pair of dowsing rods. My favorite are the L rods that you already mentioned. Now, even when you're dowsing to answer questions, ultimately it's all about energy. And I don't do that kind of dowsing anymore, and I hardly ever use the pendulum anymore. The L rods just do it all. They do everything I need them to do. Each dowsing tool has its own unique advantages and disadvantages, or let's say, not advantages, and like the pendulum is really good for asking yes/no questions because you can get responses real quickly. But the L rods are, to me, better for finding energies. And that's what I specialize in, finding energies in our living environments, finding energies within people's beings, within our beings, and determining what kind of energies they are and what it all means.
Okay.
Well, now let's talk about the dowsing rods for a moment here. If one, purchases a pair of dowsing rods, is there anything particular that they need to do to prep the rods before using them?
Well, a lot of people think there's something you need to do. It's more about prepping yourself. There's a lot of what I consider to be myths and superstition about dowsing because it's something we really don't fully understand. And a lot of people think, oh, don't let anybody touch your pendulum or don't let anybody touch your dowsing rod because their energy will contaminate it and will interfere with your energy. I don't see that. Other people say you should program the tool, like program the tool to do the work that you want it to do. I see it's more about training your own body and your own consciousness to get the reactions that you want to get. And so for some people, for example, they get reactions when they find energies with dowsing rods. Let's say an underground stream, which is also about finding energy. Some people, their dowsing rods, if they're using two of them, one in each hand, they'll cross, and others they'll open. And both of them are legitimate responses, but you can program yourself. You can just tell yourself, I want my rods to open when I get in the energy of an underground stream. And that's what will happen.
Program them differently, say one for water and one for, let's say, spirits?
I've done that kind of work before, but I would rather look for one thing at a time, and any reaction I get is an affirmative reaction. I like my work with spirits is probably quite a bit different from the work that you're doing. I don't communicate with spirits, but I do sometimes find evidence of them and deal with them to help people. But let's just say for underground streams, if you're looking for a well, you're looking to spot a well for drilling a well for a household, let's say.
Right.
Then crossing of your rods is very appropriate because it's sort of like X marks the spot. You're trying to find a very specific spot. My work is about finding energies that run within our beings and run through our living environments. These energies basically make straight lines or curved lines in the case of underground streams, meandering lines, and vortexes where they intersect. And if you want to find a line rather than getting a crossing of your rods, it's a lot more efficient to get an opening of your rods so they will align with the energy that you're looking for.
Okay.
And that's where I focus on. See, I find these energies make regular repeating patterns. The energies that are directly associated with us make a pattern. That same pattern repeats itself in energies of the earth, various kinds of earth energies, in the rooms in our home and over our whole home and over the whole earth. And that's sort of what I specialize in. Most people think about dowsing as dowsing outside, And my focus is dowsing inside, dowsing to create more beneficial and healing energy environments for ourselves and for what we want to accomplish in life.
Okay, let's stop there for a second because I want to make sure the specifications of these rods, what the sizes are. Is there a certain size of the rod, from where it bends and on forward? Is it that's 6 inches long? Is there any rods that are not the right specifications that some might be using?
I don't think there's any wrong specifications. If you take a coat hanger, which is the most commonly used thing, I guess, to make your own L rods, and you cut that coat hanger, cut the hook off, cut it in half in the middle of the long part, for example, and then you can straighten it out and make two middle-sized L rods, I would say. Or you could take two coat hangers and make two very long-shaped L rods. It really doesn't matter for the most part, except what really does matter if you want to get nice you want nice sensitive rods. They easily get reactions, and you can imagine that the longer the rod, the more weight is going to be towards the end, and it's going to be out of, sort of, if you want to call it, out of balance. It'll be pulling down, the gravity will pull it down more in the front. So the rods that I use and sell are about 8 inches long, and the handle's about 5 inches.
Okay.
And to me, it's really a wonderful length. And what matters is the weight of the rods. So, for example, I have two kinds of rods. They both have the same handle. It's made out of copper.
Okay.
And the rod itself is made out of brass. But one rod I have that I use, the whole rod part is brass. The other one is cut off about an inch from the handle, and a radio antenna inserts on top of it, which is much lighter. It's hollow.
Okay.
It's still brass, but it's lighter, and there's something about those portable L rods. They're made to carry with you anywhere you go. There's something about them that the lightness of them makes them much more responsive.
Okay.
Now, Joe,
And the material to me really doesn't matter.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. This
exactly.
is matter.
Like some people say, oh, you should only use a wooden pendulum, or only a crystal pendulum, or only these are all these rules, and I've always been one of the ones that break rules.
Okay, good.
What matters is that it reacts nicely and that you like it, and it feels good to you. And some people like, for example, back to L rods, some people like L rods that they can feel the rod turning in their hands, because that's sort of really, empowering to feel it turning. But most people use L rods that are in sleeves, and mine are the ones that I use they are in a copper sleeve, and it has a little to make it even more sensitive, a little ball bearing that the rod turns on. Mm-hmm. So again, to me, the rod is not the dowser. You are the dowser. Oh. And all we want to do is make more effective, more comfortable tools that work for what you want to do. But all the reactions, in my opinion, are going on within your own being, within your own body and your consciousness.
Okay.
And let me go a little farther with that. To me, the dowsing tool only accentuates minute little changes that are going on in your own body, in your own muscles, and in tiny little muscles and your consciousness that you really can't feel or see. But the rod or the pendulum accentuates it, so you're really externalizing the response, where the response is really internal.
So utilizing it as a tool itself.
Yeah, when I teach dowsing, and I teach dowsing pretty much, I don't want to say around the world, but internationally anyway, and people come to our home, and we have retreats here quarterly. The first few days of a retreat, I'm getting people really comfortable with the L rods, and then I teach them they don't even need the L rods. I teach them how to douse with their arms and hands, and they turn them into L rods. And then once you feel comfortable with that, you can do it all internally, and that's called true deviceless dowsing, where I teach people to douse with their vision and their feelings. But it's all dowsing.
So how does one use their arms and their hands to douse?
If you can put your hand palm down, put your hands palm down in front of you, and sort of have them bent at the wrist, just comfortably bent at the elbow, comfortably by your side, making an L shape again. Mm-hmm. And let's imagine, like you want to keep two dowsing rods parallel to each other, and let's imagine that your middle fingers are parallel to each other, so you keep them pretty much in front of you, and then you walk forward asking to find what you want to find, like, for example, the energies of an underground stream, and you'll just feel your hands want to open up or cross, point inward to cross. It's interesting, there's all these myths about dowsing. Some people think that you you have to do this to douse, you have to do that. And once you think you have to do something or you can't do something, then guess what? You have to or you can't.
Exactly.
And
Okay, am I supposed to be getting a tingling feeling on my palm?
yeah. If you get a tingling thing, that could do it too.
Okay, everybody try
And
this.
then
Just
what I would still
everybody-
suggest you do is turn that tingling feeling into an opening of your, to push your arms out in opposite directions until they make a line, and then you'll feel your body enter that energy. But what I was about to say is, there's people that have told me, oh, you can't douse unless you can see. Blind people can't douse. Well, I taught shortly after I heard that, I happened to be with a blind person at actually a healing conference, and she wanted to learn how to douse, and I taught her to douse with her hands and arms, and then her mind, even before she learned how to douse with rods. So this.
Now I'm trying to, as I'm pushing my arms to the side of me, outwards from me, I reach a certain point and I get a little bit of resistance. Almost like a,
that resistance. Oh, you mean that where before they get all the way out?
Yeah, I reach a certain point, it gives me a little bit of resistance right there.
That resistance point might be your own physical body. I don't know how comfortable you are with letting your arms go straight out to the sides and point in opposite directions, or it might be that's the point. That resistance point is where your target is, and if you keep whatever you're looking for, and if you keep walking past that resistance point, they'll probably start returning back to the front.
Wow, this is really neat. I'm doing this.
But going back to something that every one of you listeners has at home that they can douse with very easily. Going back to the coat hanger, get a wire coat hanger. You don't even have to cut it and make it L-shaped. If you hold it vertically, hold the middle of the flat part in your hand, loosely in your hand, vertically, and point the hooks ahead of you. Mm-hmm. So get two of them. Point the hooks ahead of you, parallel the rods. The coat hanger should be parallel to each other. Holding them vertically, and then you just walk forward and you say, "Show me the energies of an underground stream." And believe me, underground stream energies are everywhere around us. They're in all of our homes, all of our offices, and you can find them in almost any room of your home. And you just walk forward with those. Well, that's that senior moment stuff.
Well, now,
with
Joe,
those
let me
coat
ask you
hangers.
something. You had talked about working with energy in one's own environment. How does one change detrimental energy to beneficial energy?
I do it. I do everything with blessing.
But how do you do that?
Okay. When you find, detrimental energy, before you do that, let's talk about what detrimental energy is.
Okay.
There's many different kinds of subtle energies. I primarily work with like 5 different kinds of earth energies, human-related energies that are put here by us as human beings, and electrical fields around appliances. Mm-hmm. Now, there's 2 kinds of energy fields around appliances. One is the physical electrical field or electromagnetic field that you can pick up with a gauge or a meter. But then there's the subtle energy counterpart that you can't pick up with a gauge or a meter. You can't detect it. Only a human being can detect this with a. When I say only human, It takes a human being to be involved in the process with some kind of dowsing tool or process. Now, of all the subtle energies, of all those kinds I just mentioned, they can be in 3 very broad categories. They can be beneficial or strengthening to us. They can be neutral to us, not affect us one way or the other, or they can be detrimental to us. So, and they can weaken us. And a lot of people believe that there are many detrimental earth energies in our living environments or in the earth that if we spend a lot of time in their presence, it can cause illness, especially cancer. And these are called geopathic stress zones.
Wow.
Now, but these geopathics, and a lot of people believe that all illness is somehow caused by geopathic stress zones or detrimental earth energies. I have a different take on it. I think that we affect these energies as much or more than they affect us. That we actually make the energies around us, the earth energies and other energies, detrimental with our own negativity, with our own negative thoughts, actions, emotions, with our response to illness. So we're literally polluting our energy environments with our fear, our anxiety, our anger, our anguish, our pain. And now we get to what do you do about the energies when you find them.
Exactly.
First of all, you don't need to. You don't really need to find them, but it really helps to be aware of them. And when you find them, then they're in your intent, and you're much more effective at changing them. So if you take a pair of rods and you say, and you walk around your home, you point them straight ahead of you, parallel to each other, and you say, show me any energies that are weakening or detrimental to me or to my family or however you want to put it. When you get a dowsing reaction, this is what I do. I just say, Dear God, I pray only to God and whatever God is. I don't think anybody really knows what God is.
Okay.
God is everything and nothing at the same time. But when you find that energy, you say, Dear God, please change this energy to be beneficial and helpful to me. Amen.
So
immediately it becomes beneficial.
God has many faces, so we'll leave that open to all the listeners out
Right,
there.
right.
The face of God on it.
And whatever God is, whatever your name for the divine is, you say Father, Mother, God, or whatever it is, you just say, please make this energy, this detrimental energy beneficial. Immediately will happen. And then when you douse it again, you won't get a reaction to detrimental energy, but you will get a reaction if you say, show me beneficial energy.
Okay, that doesn't get rid of the detrimental. That just,
No, it just makes it beneficial,
it just makes
which
it
is
beneficial.
really what we want.
Okay, so your intent needs to be put in with that. Is that correct, Joey? Is that
Yes, your intent must be in there.
Okay.
There must be a request. There must be an action that you want to take. So, now, for example, most people don't look at detrimental energy this way. They think of detrimental energy as bad, let's say, and harmful, and as separate and distinct from beneficial energy, when I see it all as the same. I see when you find detrimental energy, it's just an energy field that happens to vibrate at a frequency that's out of harmony with our energies, and all you do is ask that it be changed to be beneficial. Immediately it will. It's still the same energy field in the same place, but it's carrying different energy.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Will the rods be will they spin? Will they will point to that where that area is where that energy is at that you're looking for?
Well, sometimes what you can do is when you get comfortable with using the rods, let's say for directional purposes, often if I want to find direction, I only use one rod. And then you could point it in front of you and slowly pivot in a circle and say, show me the nearest detrimental energy field. And then when the rods stick in one place when you're turning, you stop and you walk in that direction with both rods thinking, show me a detrimental energy field, and then those rods will either open or cross. You could do one rod, two rods, but I like two rods when I'm looking for a target. And where they open across, you're in the energy field that's detrimental. Now, the thing is, even though this sounds like, wow, this is amazing, you can really do that, it's so natural. I think we are always changing these energies every moment. I don't even think. I know. I mean, I've done this enough. I know. We are changing these subtle energies around us and within us with every thought, every action, and every emotion. Everything you do and everything you think and feel has an energy frequency associated with it. But it's not just something that passes and disappears. The energies around us literally record our lives and the energies within our beings, and our beings are much more than our physical bodies. Those energies record everything we think, say, and do. The more negative we are in our living environment, the more negative we are in our lives, the more angry, the more fearful, the more frustrated, then the more detrimental the energies will be in our own energy fields and patterns and the energies around us. So this is, to me, the amazing thing, that we're changing these energies every moment of every day of our lives. And what all I try to do is help people be aware of that process so they can take charge of the process and put the energies we want into our living environments and into our beings, rather than the energies that we don't want, that we fear.
Okay, we've got to take a break here on it, Joey. Hold that thought.
Okay,
We'll be back
sure.
in a few minutes. Everybody stay tuned. Thank you.
.blogspot.com. Now here's your hosts of Portal Paranormal Talk Radio, Tuesday Nights, and Angela Thomas.
And welcome back to the Portal Paranormal Talk Radio. I'm your host, Tuesday Miles.
And I'm Angela Thomas.
And joining us today is Joey Korn, our dowsing expert. I'm going to call you an expert on this one, Joey, because you've really given us already just an enormous amount of information that I had no clue about. So, and I'm sure, and we're getting tons of remarks from our virtual auditorium that's just amazed at the information that they're learning in here today. So thank you.
Well, sure. And if I'm going to do something to base my life work on something, I better be an expert at it, right?
You sure are on it. And so, we left off on, don't have a senior moment here because, I don't want to be called a senior yet with this on it, but, we are talking about the L-rods and
right.
teaching us on how to use them correctly and what we can expect to get, the information from them. And we've gotten a lot of information from you on this. It's great. Angela, you wanted to also speak about Joey's book.
Yes, absolutely. Joey, you've written a book called Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment. Can you tell us a little bit about what a reader can find in the book?
Yeah, sure. What I did is basically tell my own story of how I learned about dowsing and how I learned to dowse and what I did with it and how I learned to dowse underground streams, wells, and how I learned to do things like you can actually, there's techniques that you can actually move underground streams into dry holes, dry wells. And so I addressed that a little bit. But then I quickly get into dowsing energy. And it's all energy. Even when you're dowsing an underground stream or buried treasure, you're dowsing the energy field of those physical substances, not the physical substances themselves, in my opinion, anyway. Mm-hmm. And so I quickly get into dowsing beneficial and detrimental energies, as we've already discussed, in the various kinds, and changing the detrimental energies to beneficial. And I give many versions of my blessing process to change various energies. And then I go into basically what we've been talking about, how everything is energy and how we're changing the energies all the time, whether we know it or not. And I get people to be aware of what's going on energetically, as I like to say, behind the scenes in life.
So
and that's what my book is about. So it starts with underground dowsing underground streams for wells, working with those the underground streams, and then it evolves quickly into the energies of life. And I also have a couple of chapters on pendulum dowsing, even though I don't do any pendulum dowsing anymore. And I think I mentioned earlier, almost exclusively with the L-rods.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you something here, Joey. One of our members in the virtual auditorium had asked about particular dowsers, and there's something called a bobber. It's a dowser that bounces up and down.
Right. It bounces up and down, and also in circles.
Okay.
And what it is sort of like a small fishing pole that you hold backwards.
Right.
It's something you hold. It's like an extended rod. It may or may not have a spring on it, but it basically has a weight towards the end of it where it'll bounce up and down. And you can ask questions with it, and let's say it might go clockwise for yes, and counterclockwise for no, or just the opposite. It might bounce up and down or sideways. Or you can also use, it's sort of a versatile tool. You can also use it to find energies, like an underground stream, and you walk forward, and it's moving, it's moving or bouncing, and then when it goes into a circle, that's when you found whatever you're looking for.
Well,
and it's just another dowsing tool that again, has its own unique advantages and disadvantages, own unique uses.
Well, Joey, let me ask you this. You know, you had mentioned earlier about dowsing rods and spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And how does one enhance their spirituality using dowsers?
Well, gosh, to me, first of all, some people ask me often, what does dowsing have to do with spirituality or spiritual growth or enlightenment? For God's sakes, you know.
Right.
But to me, gosh, if you can find a place to drill a well, and you can do things like predict or estimate how deep you'll have to dig to hit that well, and to hit that water, and how many gallons per minute of flow, which every good water well dowser does. That's spiritual. That's amazingly spiritual if you can do that with any kind of dowsing tool.
Right, and really get into the energy of the Creator.
Right. And and that's it. It's the energy of the Creator. And again, I define these subtle energies that we find as dowsers, that we find as with dowsing. I define those subtle energies as a special category of the energies of the universe that we can detect, but meters and gauges cannot detect. And we can change those energies. So I can show somebody immediately the effect. I can validate the power of prayer and blessing, and even positive and negative thinking, immediately with anybody. And I can give and to me that's so intensely spiritual. I can give your listeners something very easy to do.
Boy, I'm throwing up the umbrella over my head. Trying to hide my negative negativity on that one, Joey.
This is going to be real easy.
Okay.
It's not going over your head. Almost everybody on the planet nowadays has a cell phone.
Right.
Every cell phone has a energy field around it that can be doused if you learn how to do it. That energy field, that subtle energy field, is what I call the subtle energy counterpart of the physical field. Mm-hmm. And everybody has probably heard of EMF, or electromagnetic fields, mm-hmm. radiating from appliances as being harmful to us.
Right.
Well, I've got a whole article in my website at dowsers.com. It's entitled "I Love EMF," because we can influence that subtle field. So what you can do, anybody can do this. Take your cell phone, put it to you. You don't even. It doesn't even have to be on, but you don't have to be using it. You don't have to be talking to somebody. You put your cell phone to your ear like you normally would. You take your other arm and put it straight out to the side. Let somebody else push down at about your wrist while you try to resist and hold your arm up. That's called muscle testing, to get a measure of your strength. When you're holding your cell phone to your ear and you do that, you're going to likely be quite weakened. Then you just look at that cell phone and you say, "Dear God," or however you address the divine, "please change the energies radiating from this phone to be beneficial. Amen." And then muscle test again. Immediately you'll be very strong rather than weak.
Okay, so, again, using that positive intent that you're putting around with this, I have to say, though, Joey, some people on this that say, how is that going to affect? Really, this is something that comes off of our electrical appliances. How
but it's not. We're not changing the physical appliance. There's a field, an energy field that radiates out from that appliance that you can detect with dowsing. These fields, to me, I call them vessels.
Okay.
These vessels themselves aren't beneficial or detrimental. The fields themselves are neutral. What makes them beneficial or detrimental is the energy that they carry. All of these subtle fields, as we said earlier on in our little interview here, all of these subtle energy fields can be either beneficial or detrimental or neutral. Any subtle energy field that has a detrimental or neutral effect on us can be made to be beneficial simply by requesting that it happen.
Okay.
And it'll happen. And another thing you can do is get somebody to muscle test you. And this is just muscle testing to me is another form of dowsing. So you just put your arm out and get another person to push down, straight down, while you resist. Get a measure of the strength. Push down hard enough to get it to go down a little bit. And then think of a problem in your life, a concern, a worry, an issue you haven't resolved. And immediately, and get them to test you again, you will get much weaker just by thinking about a concern in your life. Then if you say, Dear God, Father, Mother, God, powers of the universe, however you address the divine, bless me with energy to help me resolve this issue that I'm thinking about right now. And then think about the issue again and muscle test again, you're going to be much stronger even when you're thinking in a negative way. Dowsing can be used to immediately validate the things that almost every religion, talks about all the time. But we are expected to accept these things on blind faith. It's much more powerful when we experience these changes. If you can immediately experience a difference through dowsing or muscle testing right after you say a blessing, that to me is very powerful and very spiritual.
So that goes along really with the laws of intent and the laws of attraction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to me it not only goes along with it, it sort of explains it. As I said earlier, if you fill and surround yourself with the energies of what you think and what you feel, with negative thoughts and emotions, you put detrimental energies into your living environments and into your being exactly at the frequencies, even though I don't know anything, I don't measure the frequencies with it, I don't know, I'm not a scientist, but you put energies, you fill yourself and surround yourself with the energies of what you're thinking. And so if you're thinking a lot of negative stuff, what are you going to do but attract that negative stuff?
Exactly.
When you can take charge of the process.
So your intent, faith, and belief is a really key role in all of this, though, isn't it?
Intent and belief is a very key role, especially intent.
Okay.
And understanding, that makes a big difference.
Right. Oh, absolutely on it, because, even though with Edison still has not come out with a disclosure that says that they have proof that EMF can cause cancer or can cause health issues. They will not yet do that. The fact is they open up a huge book of worms that they do. So they still have that where the fact is that they still say that they do not have proof that EMF can cause any such negative effect on our bodies.
Right. And they ought to find me because I can
because it is
I can teach them how to make it beneficial. I teach people to use EMF fields, at least the subtle counterpart, the subtle radiation of those fields, which doesn't come out in rays, it comes out in a vortex, in a spiral. And again, there's an article in the website about this, in my website. I teach people not only to make EMF energies radiating from appliances beneficial, but I teach people to use those energies and bless them, charge them with energy specifically to help them resolve their key issues in life.
Okay.
And it does.
What happens if somebody doesn't have that belief system there, Joey? What happens if fact is, let's say we get an atheist in here. Let's say, do you think that they would still have the same effect, even though their intent was?
Yeah, these energies will work just as well. I mean, this method, this technique will work just as well if you say, I command these energies to change to be beneficial.
Okay.
But to me, it works on the same principles. The universal one, as another name for the divine, has put a system of universal laws into effect that we can affect with with our, that we can engage with our intent.
Okay.
So whether we command it to happen or request it to happen in a blessing, it's still going to happen, and it's happening the same way. But the difference is, if we think we're doing it, that builds the ego. That separates us from others. It makes us feel more powerful than others and beyond others, when if we do it by a prayerful or blessing request of some higher force of the universe, and the more powerful we get in this work, the more humble we get in the work. Because we know that we have been privileged to tap into something that's beyond us, but yet we are integral to it. If that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
Now, we've touched on something that a couple of times that I want to get back to, that I think is important for your listeners. Many people use dowsing to ask questions. That's typically done with a pendulum. I also mentioned earlier that I no longer use a pendulum, and this is the reason why I don't use a pendulum. The main reason I don't use a pendulum is because people abuse the dowsing process. They use dowsing for yes/no answers to make their life decisions, or to ask questions, inappropriate questions. And once you get the feeling that you have access to all the answers of the universe, then you start you may start asking inappropriate questions. Number one is making life decisions. I don't think you should turn over making an important life decision to a pendulum, to a psychic, or to anybody else. Now, if you use that to add to the decision-making process, that's one thing. But, we're here to make decisions. If that's a fact-finding information and advice-gathering information, that's fine. But just to turn it over, it is dangerous to me. And a lot of people ask very inappropriate questions. For example, I get calls, not all the time, but fairly regularly. I'll get a call, and the typical thing is, Joey, I'm too close to this to get a good. I'm a dowser, and I've dowsed for many years, but I'm too close to this to get an accurate answer. Would you douse something for me? And then it'll eventually be like, my ring is missing. I think so and so has stolen it. Would you check that for me? Or I think my husband's cheating on me with my girlfriend. Will you check that for me? Those are very inappropriate questions. And so I have a yardstick, a little guide stick for your listeners and for you that I would suggest that you do.
Okay, let's get to some questions that I'm being asked about the pendulum, because we have a lot of curiosity about this on it. Question 1, is it normal for a pendulum to answer a question the way the person who is asking it wants the question to turn out?
Yes. That's another reason that this is you see, this is
So the intent is going to sway more towards the answer you really want.
Most of the times, when you're asking yes or no questions, you're getting what you think, what you wish, what you believe, or more dangerously, what you fear.
Okay.
Or suspect. And it's difficult you can tune into things. I have predicted the future. I've done things with pendulum dowsing in years past. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, I tuned into something and I got correct answers. But then I couldn't repeat it. And I don't know any dowser that can do any kind of, can do anything close to 80 or 90 or 100% in getting their answers, if it's verifiable. So yes, the answer is we're often getting the answer that we think, wish, believe, or again, more dangerously, fear.
Okay.
So, Joey, what are your feelings about medical dowsers? Those that use dowsing to perhaps find an area of the body which is ill?
Well, I think that's a quite appropriate way to do it. Again, like anything else, it takes practice, it takes discipline, it takes passionate work and diligence. to separate out what's real from what's not, but you can certainly detect imbalances in the body and in the energy field with dowsing. It's a powerful way to do it. And I do it regularly, but not necessarily to diagnose illness, more to help people understand their issues better by dowsing, finding their imbalances in their own patterns and knowing a little bit about what those imbalances mean.
Okay.
And finding imbalances in their homes and knowing a little bit about what those imbalances mean.
Okay.
But again, the end result is I get people to bless themselves, bless their family members, bless their partners, bless their homes. I just get people blessing, 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 whether you're calling on the universe or God or whatever. I say whatever. Whatever is always talking about something benevolent.
Right. Oh, goodness. That's a big word on that one. Okay, let's go to the other questions. Angela, you have a question? This is from our listeners that they're curious about the pendulum.
Yes, I do. And one of the questions was regarding working with spiritual energy. And many of our listeners, Joey, want to know about the paranormal, or they've started paranormal investigations, or they may be psychics or mediums, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the tools that many psychics use to kind of clear out that negative energy is, white sage and other types of tools such as sage. Can dowsing replace that? I know that you said changing detrimental energy to beneficial energy. So basically that's the same thing. Is that correct?
Okay, you're specifically talking about clearing energies through
clearing
using sage.
Spiritual energy, negative entities.
Yes, but you mean like through... But right now we're talking about the sage burning, like smudging.
Right. Many people utilize sage and other tools to clear away negative entities or negative energies in their home.
Okay,
so
to
we can
me,
do the same thing with dowsing. Is that correct?
Yeah, and now I would still do it. It's still with intent. To me, dowsing, you use dowsing to find energies and detect and discern energies. But to me, you use intent to change energies.
Right.
So in my humble opinion, when we use, and I love sage. I love using a smudge stick. I love the smell of it. I love to even breathe it and feel that it's cleansing me within.
Okay. Different opinion on that one I have for you, Joey. Go ahead.
Okay, but to me, what you're really doing when you're clearing energy with a sage stick is using your intent. It's the ritual of light. This is my opinion of lighting the sage, doing whatever your ritual is, whether you chant anything or say anything or wave it in a certain place, a certain way around a person, or what you're doing is you're saying, with this, you're thinking, with this ritual, I am clearing negative entities away. I am clearing detrimental energies away. And for example, if you just burn let's say you leave a sage stick in the ashtray, and as it will often happen, it's not completely out, and it just continues to burn.
Right.
If there's nobody around, I don't think it clears anything. I think it's all about us engaging in our intent.
Our intent, our energy, etc.
Agrees with that one.
Right, and so if you feel like your ritual is tapping your heels 3 times and turning around to change energies, in the Wizard of Oz, like Dorothy or whatever, when she clicked her heels, that change. It's a ritual in order to accomplish something.
Okay.
So I just skip all the ritual, or I skip all the intermediary things, and go straight to focusing intent with prayer, with blessing.
Okay.
So I would just bless the person and create an energy of, to dispel, to remove entities, remove detrimental forces, and create an aura of protection around the person and the space.
Okay. We've got a couple other questions from the listeners.
Okay.
It's important. We need to ask this. Question: in regards to the material of your pendulum, should it be in harmony with the user in regards to quartz, wood, stone, personal jewelry, etc.?
it should be in harmony with the user to the extent that they like it.
Okay.
Now, some people like to have one pendulum for, let's say, spiritual work, and one pendulum for healing work, and one pendulum for clearing work. If that feels good to them, great.
Okay.
Different stones have different harmony, different vibrations, and that typically, if you study the meanings of stones, they pretty much go along with the chakras. So green stones like aventurine or malachite has to do with the heart chakra. Love, harmony, and orange stone have to do with the second chakra, sex, partnership. Purple stones have to do with more mystical things, and so those are different vibrations, and they can be very valid. But in my opinion, the main thing we need to do is like the feel of the stone, not like the look of it or the pendulum, and like the way it feels and swings. And some people like shorter chains or strings, and some people like longer. The only difference is a longer string or chain will make a slower swing, a longer and slower swing. A shorter chain or string will make a shorter and quicker spin and reaction.
Good, because that was one of our next questions, was how long should the string be?
Whatever feels comfortable.
Great, okay.
I try to take all those myths, those superstitions away.
Exactly.
Get something you really like.
Well,
and
we're glad
that's
that you're
what
letting
matters.
us know this.
And realize you are the dowser, not the tool.
Right.
That's a real key.
Everybody understanding that? Can you repeat that one more time, Joey? You are the...
That you are the dowser, not the tool.
Okay.
The tool is simply indicating, externalizing things that are going on within you. It's to help you tune into your subconscious and even your conscious mind. In fact, I'm rereading an old book, Jane Roberts, what's the name of it? One of her big ones, the first one that he dictated to her.
Okay.
And they're talking about the pendulum, and Jane Roberts' husband, who takes the dictation, was talked about using the pendulum to tune into his conscious mind, and Seth reported, but when he started dictating again, says, you're not tuning into your conscious mind, you're actually tuning into your subconscious mind, you're actually tuning into your conscious mind. And we think that our conscious mind is something we want to get beyond, but it's something we want to tune into.
We do, and also people fear that, actually, what they're going to get out of that subconscious mind or conscious mind. The same source is like, oh, no. Do I really want to listen to that or see that? It can be scary stuff. Last question from the listeners here is they just wanted to know, should they, with using the pendulum and over a yes or no or an object, in that sense, is there a certain amount of inches that you need to be away from the object or the yes or no answers or whatever you're using it for? It should be closer.
I don't quite get the question.
Well, is there any particular distance that a pendulum should be away from the object that you're looking for?
If you're dowsing about an object?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
I like to do, if I'm dowsing about an object, my main question is, are there energies attached to this object that I should be aware of? Mm-hmm. Are they beneficial or detrimental? And I would use not a pendulum, because I don't like to douse about energies. I like to douse the energies directly. So I would use a pair of L rods and douse in a little circle around the object, because energies will attach to objects or to people or to even empty space in straight lines intersecting each other. And where they intersect each other creates vortexes. So if there's energies attached to an object, whether they're beneficial or detrimental, it will likely be two lines from my experience.
Can we describe vortex?
A vortex is a spiraling energy field that is, from my experience, actually created by other energy field lines of energy intersecting each other. So Tuesday, you mentioned in an email you want to learn more about energy lays and ley lines.
Mm-hmm, I did.
Energy lays are straight lines of energy that course the earth, and they could be anywhere. They're typically always considered to be always at sacred places, like Stonehenge and the Great Pyramids and Lourdes and places like that. And they intersect each other. And where these straight lines of energy intersect each other create spiraling vortices or vortexes. And that's all a vortex is. When people say, oh, I think I have a vortex in my house, well, of course, you probably have thousands of them, because everywhere two underground streams intersect each other creates a little vortex. That, when I say little, it expands infinitely in all directions, in my opinion. So anywhere two Earth energy lines, straight lines, energy lines like energy lathes intersect each other, create a vortex. Human-related lines, we have also lines that are like energy lathes that are connected to us, and we imprint them everywhere we go, and they make certain patterns that I think are tied to the tree of life in Kabbalah. And everywhere those lines intersect each other create vortexes. So that's what my definition of a vortex. They're everywhere.
Can you change the vortex? Is there any
Yeah.
Okay.
When you change detrimental energy lines to be beneficial, you're actually changing the vortexes or vortices that they're related to or created by them to be beneficial.
So how does one change that vortex?
You
Using
do
the same method that you
just
described earlier?
you say, you could say, even if you don't douse it, you could say, dear God, please bless the energies of this room to change any detrimental energies, and it doesn't have to be dear God. Again, however you address the divine. Change the energies of this room to be beneficial for me and my family, to support what we want to do in our lives. Don't forget to bless yourself. When you bless yourself, when you say a simple blessing, I've got another a link at the bottom of my website page at dowsers.com. If there's a link to things that I sort of highlight. I call it what's new, but a lot of it isn't really that new. But there's some key things down there. One of them is my simple blessing process. It's so simple and so powerful. If you just ask the divine to bless you, to bring healing and balance to your complete being at all levels, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, it's amazing how many vortexes of energy you're changing by doing that, not only within you, but everywhere around you. Because remember, we're recording ourselves as we go through life in the energies around us. So when we change our own energies, we're also changing the energies of our living environments.
But we also change the recording, is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. And that's what we want to do.
All right, I'll be right back, listeners. I'm going to set the phone down and go get my rods out. I've got some work to do here on it. Thank you. Boy, I tell you, I have I hate to say this, in the bathroom of all places, but there seems what I call her a little gatekeeper, because she doesn't leave the bathroom. She's stuck there for whatever reason she wants to be there. But she opens up something every night. You can see her little half of her body spinning and spinning and spinning. Is that the vortex part of her?
Well, I think every force is basically a vortex. So every angel, the reason we can't really describe angels the way they really are is because they're just a force. I remember one time I had an employee many years ago, and he was dying. I was in the hospital, and he was in really close to death. And I went to the chapel, and all of a sudden I started feeling myself spinning. But not it didn't make me dizzy. It was a very pleasant thing. And then I saw this beautiful female being, and she was spinning in a vortex. I think, and she gave me this beautiful feeling of what was happening with this employee of mine. And then I went up there to share it with him, and he had died like at that very moment. I think all of these energies are vortices. Energies move through vortices or vortexes. Right. And, a tornado. We had tornadoes whipping through our area last night. You might have seen that on the news. I did. It's a force of nature. It's a vortex. A flushing toilet is a vortex. Vortexes are just inherent. The hair on the top of your head it swirls in a vortex.
Okay.
We're swirling because we live on a spinning planet. And the spinning planet is spinning with other planets around a spinning sun, which is spinning around some other central thing, and the entire universe is spinning, creating vortices all the time.
Exactly.
Who knew? I never thought of it that way.
I'll give you another quick one to think of it in those terms. We're all taught when we were in school that that a flashlight, for example, if you shine it into the cosmos, it will go in a straight line 186,000 miles per second, right?
Right.
But what's happening, if you keep shining it in a straight line out into the sky, the planet is spinning. So that line becomes what? A spiraling vortex going through the universe all the time. It's very simple.
There's so much information here. Angela, we need to have him back.
You know, you asked me earlier, what does this have to do with spirituality?
Yes.
I came to all these understandings through dowsing and through experiencing the energies. And dowsing has helped me understand vortexes. It's helped me to understand light. It's helped me to understand energy. It's helped me to understand reincarnation and karma. It's helped me to understand positive and negative thinking and emotions and and actions and the importance of that. And it's helped me to understand so much in a knowing way and an experiential way rather than a blind faith accepting things on an intellectual understanding or intellectual belief, just trying to ration. But ultimately, it all becomes rational once you understand it.
So, Joey, let me ask you this. Is there a particular thing that we can do to balance ourselves and take advantage of positive energy?
Bless yourself regularly.
Bless yourself
I'm
regularly.
serious. That's how I do all of my work. And just always bless yourself, every time. And it's not, it's also another thing is important, and people think that people separate their physical lives from their spiritual lives. They say, everything, my family keeps me, my work keeps me from being spiritual, my family keeps me from being spiritual, my husband keeps me from being spiritual. Your physical life is your spiritual life. Everything that you have ever done in this life and in future past lives and what you have the potential for doing in future lives meets in the 3D now at the present of every moment. So the best way to work on your past lives is to work on the issues and concerns in your present life. The issues that you have in your life, the struggles that you have in your life right now are brought to you by you to help you grow. And the more you deal with them, then you're dealing with all of your struggles from previous lives at the same time that are related to that. So when people ask me if I can tell them,
are our spiritual lives.
Everything is spiritual.
Yes.
We are living a spiritual life. Now, you deal a lot with mediumship or ghosts or interdimensional beings or whatever you want to call it, the various aspects of what you deal with. All that, and that seemingly is spiritual, but it's all spiritual. It's all spiritual. And many times when we think we have ghosts, or when we think there are entities involved in a certain home, let's say, many times it's simply the recording of the people that have lived or are living in that home. Because our energies are living energies. When we imprint ourselves energetically in a space, we're imprinting ourselves. We're imprinting our emotions, our feelings, and when those emotions are passionate, we are creating like little beings of energy just by living our lives that can seem to be like something that's apart from us. And I'm not saying that's always the case, but it's a very commonly, it happens all the time.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, Joey. It really does. Okay, so Joey, you've written Dowsing a Path to Enlightenment, And you mentioned earlier that you do offer classes and seminars or retreats, rather.
Okay, I teach throughout the United States. When I say throughout, I travel less and less. I used to for the first 7 years of doing this. I've been doing it 11 years full time. I traveled 30 times a year for 7 years in a row. It's too much for me. I travel about a half a dozen times a year now. I'm going to be in California in the summer. I'm going to be in Vermont. And these are already in my website under the dowsing. Under the workshops and events page. And I'm going to be teaching in Denmark twice this year, in Canada. And but my favorite way to teach is here in my home. 3 or 4 times a year, people come to here from all over the world, and they spend 5 days and nights with us. We feed them wonderful meals. It's 4.5 days of teaching, a lot of fun, and they stay here with us in our home. And we try to keep it practical and reasonable. It's less than $200 a day, including everything. And the next one is in May, and wrote it down somewhere.
Well, we definitely feel a trip coming on, don't we, Tuesday?
You said California, and I perked up real quick. Okay, we have about less than 6 minutes left, so I want to quickly go and ask about the salt, the Celtic sea
Okay,
salt.
the salt. Yes, Celtic sea salt or Celtic sea salt. Salt, we've grown to think that salt's bad for us. Oh, it causes high blood pressure. It causes all kind of other problems. People want to restrict their salt. Salt is a necessary ingredient not only for our health but for life. You have to have salt. Everything, the ocean has salt. Everything has salt. Our table salt that we get at the grocery store has been stripped of all its nutrients that were originally in it when it came from the ocean, if that's where it came from, and ultimately most of it came from the ocean at some point. And then we have to add back stuff like iodine and then chemicals to keep it dry and to do other things. Unrefined Celtic sea salt comes straight from the ocean. It's a living sea and a very clean sea in France, and it's been done for hundreds of years this way. They usher the salt into pools, and they let the nature, wind, and the sun evaporate the water, and you're left with a bed of salt. That salt has 80 natural elements in it, 80 natural nutrients in it, in the same balance they are in the ocean, which is the same balance we need in our bodies. Now, people ask me, what does this have to do with your work? What does it have to do with dowsing? Why do you carry Celtic sea salt? And I said, well, it does have to do with you. In order to be a good conductor of the natural forces of the universal electric current, of the chi, or whatever you want to call it, you have to be a good battery. Your body is a battery, and you have to have enough water in your diet and salt and other minerals in your diet to be a good conductor. So that's how it fits. But the real answer, why I carry it, because I can.
Oh, very good.
Because I love salt, I love to cook, I love to eat, and I think it's just wonderful that this natural, unrefined salt is not only delicious, but it's good for us too. And a lot of people believe that it can do real healing. A lot of people take it as cleanses and whatever else reason. But it's really a good salt, and we carry it, and we try to keep the best prices available in the web, and it's available through the website, or if you...
I just put the link up for that in the website.
And there's more information about that in my website, too.
Yes, absolutely. You can get all that information from Joey's website at www.dowsers.com, or more information off the portal site. You can get this, and I'm putting that link in the virtual auditorium. Well, I just said, should we have Joey back? Because the fact is, Joey, there is just... I have tons more questions. We didn't even hit on hardly, just a touch of what you know about, and all our listeners are saying, please bring him back because we love this.
Well, I have a suggestion. I'll send each of you a book.
Wonderful.
Read the book, and then you're going to have different questions. And then we'll talk about it again, setting up another time in the future.
Oh, absolutely. On this, please.
And your book is called Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment with Joey Korn.
And again, there's a link on the portal page that you could order a copy for yourself on that. There's a link there again off of Joey's site. And, I mean, there's just tons of information that you can go over and read through his website. He's got everything really basically spelled out for you. I mean, if you're missing something from here on the show or didn't get what he said, go on to his website and read about it.
And feel free to email me from the site, or my telephone number is 877-DOWSING.
Oh, absolutely.
877-DOWSING.
877-DOWSING. Oh, and he offers a phone number. See, this is how available you are to people really for this. I mean, you know, you offer a phone number for them to call. That's great.
I try.
That's absolutely great on this, too. And you're going to be in California. Is that up in San Francisco you're going to be?
That's going to be at Santa Cruz, the Dowsing Conference. It's always July 4th week.
Okay. Well, I'm a little bit far from there, but not too bad. I'm about 8 hours from there on it, so maybe I'll take a drive out there.
A lot closer than I am.
Absolutely on that one. We have a minute left on this, Angela. Again, so, you know, we want to really thank you for coming on the show. It's been very informative. There's a lot of things I didn't understand, and I have to say I'm going to apply what you've taught us here on the show to...
You know, and also I'd like to say, if people feel they have energy problems in their homes, I offer remote services. It's available. It's explained a little in the website. I can tune into the energies of any home, connect to those energies, and balance those energies anywhere in the world. And I'd be certainly willing. I do a lot of that, especially on weekends.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for doing the show with us today, Joey.
Well, thanks for having me.
You've been listening to Joey Korn, author of Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment.
And you've been on Portal, Paranormal Talk Radio, and I'm your host, Tuesday Miles.
And I'm Angela Thomas.
And stay tuned we won't be here next week. Next week's Easter Sunday, so sorry about that, but, you know, I think everybody should spend it with their families. Have a great Easter holiday with your families, and we'll see you week after next. God bless.
Good night.
Good night. And we're off on that. Thank